Guys, thank you so much for joining me. I'm Eric, and let's go. For the first time, they brought the production of Doctor Who to the U.S., and they actually shot here in America. Like out in New Mexico and out that way, out west, they shot here in America. 2011, okay, Series 6, The Impossible Astronaut and Day of the Moon. This is where the Silents come in. A fantastic villain. And this villain actually has the ability to make you forget. Okay, they mess with your memory, so you could be looking at them, and then when you turn away, you forgot that you just saw this really creepy looking nasty monster, right? And so much so that we find out during The Impossible Astronaut and Day of the Moon that the Silents have been running things, have been influencing history, governments, and peoples for millennia. Because after you forget, the Silents with hypnotic suggestion can actually steer the course of history. Fantastic villain. Amazing. Again, hats off to Stephen Moffat. So this is Series 6. This is my Blu-ray set of Series 6. Really cool cover here. Matt Smith, okay? You can see his his sonic screwdriver down here. Now, Mark Sheppard, who played Crawley from Supernatural, plays Canton, Delaware. And he plays a fantastic role in this. And they have an actor who's also playing Richard Nixon. And there's a scene in the Oval Office, and it's done so well. And Matt Smith is just great. And he wants a fez again. And by the way, another iconic look for the Doctor is the fez that he wears in Series 5. And in Series 6, to start this off, like I have in my autographed picture back here, the Doctor wears a Stetson, which he gets from James Corden's character in Series 5, okay, because those events led up to these events, and he gets the Stetson from him when he's a lodger, and then he's wearing it out west when they shoot here in America. Okay, so this is my toy of Matt Smith during that time. All right, so Canton, Delaware. What's great is there's a scene in which, back in the 60s, okay, in 69, they work with Canton and President Nixon, and the Doctor has this insanely crazy but amazing plan, all right, using Neil Armstrong's foot, and to actually broadcast a message from the moon lander back to the States, so like 500 million people. Point is, part of this whole plan, though, we see the end result of that, where Mark Sheppard's dad, his real-life dad, plays the older Canton, okay? So Mark Sheppard plays him in 69, but in 2011, we have Mark Sheppard's real-life dad, so he looks just like him, all right? And it's just beautifully done. No makeup. His dad plays it. You'll see. But The Impossible Astronaut why is it called that? Well, an astronaut walks out of Lake Silencio, okay, the silent lake, and this astronaut walks out and shoots the Doctor dead with some kind of laser beam or ray that comes out of the suit itself. So obviously alien tech here. And they actually burn the Doctor's body. Next thing they know, they're running into the Doctor in a diner, where he's gone out to find his favorite straw, which adds more fizz. This Doctor, though, is about 100-ish years older. I mean, so the Doctor that died is about 900-ish years old, and this one is like 9. Anyway, it's like 70, 80 years have passed for the Doctor that they go on the adventure with. So, fantastic 2 episodes, taking on the Silence. How do you take on an enemy that makes you forget them the moment you look away? They've got a plan for that. The Doctor has an app for that. It's actually it's a psychic link to a little recorder that you press in your palm, right? So when you see the Silence, you press it and go, I'm looking at him now. He's here in the room with me. So you look away. You forgot about him. I don't remember the Silence, right? But your hand is blinking, little red blink. And you press it in this nano recorder, okay? Tied to you can actually, it's like, Yeah, I just saw them in the room. It's fantastic, these 2 episodes, and they have these marks on them, using a Sharpie pen, and they're crossing off little crosshatches, 1, 2, 3, 4, with a line through it, They've got these marks all over them because they need to put these marks on them to remember how many silents were surrounding them. It's a way to try to remember the enemy that's surrounding you. So well done. These first 2 episodes of Series 6, Impossible Astronaut, Day of the Moon. And I may not have mentioned it before, but all of these episodes are available on Max, okay, HBO Max. If you have that service, you can get them there. As you've seen, I own the Blu-rays. These may still be available if you want to look for them, all right, entire Blu-ray sets of the series. And in addition to that, I own them on, Vudu or another streaming service where you can buy videos. I actually own them digitally as well. I've covered my bases, as you can imagine. Now, here is a picture right here on disc 2. There's a picture of the silence. Creepy, right? So I forgot that they had one of their pictures on there. And by the way, there's a River Song. You ever see there? And we got Amy and Rory in the back. All right, so this is my Series 6 Blu-rays. After that episode with the dad from Downton Abbey is Curse of the Black Spot. It's a pirate adventure. Following that is The Doctor's Wife. This is one of the highest rated episodes on IMDb, and I believe a lot of people love this episode. The TARDIS itself is sentient. It actually has a personality. It is self-aware. We actually see that embodied in a woman, and therefore it's the Doctor's wife, right? The TARDIS being his ultimate companion. It's the thing that's brought him through all of space and time. It let him leave Gallifrey. It's always been with him, as a wife should be. And so The Doctor's Wife, check that out. Next up on our must-watch list, Rebel Flesh and The Almost People. Not my favorite episodes. Sometimes can be kind of tedious, and basically the premise of this whole thing, why it's called The Rebel Flesh and The Almost People, is because they have a way in which they can clone these temporary-ish expendable plastic bodies, basically. Okay, so the special liquid that can instantly clone your DNA and bring back even your personality into a replicant plastic form of yourself. And they do this because at this Castle Factory deal in the future, where the Doctor has traveled, they are working with acid or something. Therefore, if you fall into a vat of acid, you're dead, right? But if you have a plastic replicant version of you, okay, an almost person, if you will, then it doesn't matter. And you wake up back in your stasis pod, if you will, where you were kind of connected to it. Well, something goes haywire, and then the plastic versions become like their own entity away from the original human versions. The best part of this episode is twofold. One of which is when we see Matt Smith playing against himself. Fantastic. 2 Doctors on screen. Okay? You have Matt Smith and you have Matt Smith. Double the Doctor, double the fun. So that's one of the best parts. The other best part is that by the end of these 2 episodes, we find out the Doctor's figured out, based on some scans and based on just observation and evidence. The scans that he's been running on the TARDIS shows that Amy is pregnant, not pregnant. Pregnant, it can't quite decide. I mean, you're either pregnant or you're not, right? It's either a 1 or a 0. There's either life or there's no baby. So, he figures this out. She is a replicant. She is an almost person. She is a plastic version of herself. And by the end, he has Rory step back. Okay, this is why I keep these 2 episodes in the must-watch list. He steps back at the end of Almost People, episode 6, and he uses a sonic screwdriver, and she just melts into a plastic puddle. And then the real Amy wakes up. And she is very pregnant. And in some kind of space pod somewhere far away. Amy hasn't been with them for a while. So that's really big. That's why I leave these 2 episodes in, because they lay the groundwork for a major story arc. okay? That, Amy hasn't been with him for a while. And that leads straight into the fact that they find this out. Oh, the Matt Smith, the doctor, and of course Rory, her husband, not happy about this one. And basically they go to war. This next episode, episode 7, is called A Good Man Goes to War, that being the doctor. One of the lines in this episode is, he will rise to his highest height and then fall to his lowest low. And on this asteroid, occupied by an enemy force, these people who are keeping her captive, she has had the baby, all right? She gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. And a Melanie Pond, all right? Her name's Melanie Pond. And so in A Good Man Go to War, well, the doctor goes to war with Rory at his side, dressed in his Roman gear, and they, within minutes, take over this asteroid. And by the way, they introduce another new villain called the Headless Monks, who serve the Grand Papal Mainframe, which, by the way, is a female. Something that they actually revisit again in the Doctor's last episode, the Papal Mainframe, which is kind of cool that they finally, pay that off, if you will. It's only referenced in this one with the religious army and so on. But he does go to war. He takes over the asteroid. But then again, when they think this sees the day and they've got everything sorted and the enemies are either running or captured or dead, they find out that they don't actually have the baby. That itself is a plastic replicant. And that's where they sink so low. But in this episode, another major part is River refuses to join the Doctor. So many of his friends did join him in saving Amy, trying to save the baby, taking over and defeating these enemies. But River wouldn't join because that was the day that the Doctor finds out who River really is. And who is she? River Song is Melanie Pond. The baby that Amy just had, gave birth to, is the grown-up River Song. So this is all revealed, and it is very touching, and yet hopeful at the same time, because the Doctor knows that the baby is ultimately safe. But Amy is left feeling hollow and defeated because she doesn't have that baby, right? She knows she's safe and an adult. But she just had that baby. Imagine that. Not, wow, the juxtaposition to your feelings and you feel elated that you know who your daughter will be, but you don't get to hold who she is in that moment. You don't get to be there through her infancy and her childhood. Oh, heartbreaking. Heartbreaking. Episode 8. The next one on our must-watch list is called Let's Kill Hitler. Let's Kill Hitler. And in this one, we find out that while much of her childhood had been missed, the later elementary school through high school, Amy and Rory had a best friend. And her name was Mel's, a young black lady. This is Melanie Pond. And so she finally finds her mom and dad and gets to hang with them as a friend for all those years, knowing who they are. And she's a troublemaker even back then. And fun episode, but there's this one point where she pulls a gun on the Doctor in a field. And in the middle of nowhere, she pulls a gun on the Doctor and says, I have a gun, you have a time machine. I don't know, let's kill Hitler. So there you go, it's the premise. So they actually go back to, they go back to Hitler at the height of his power in Berlin, Germany. And they run into Hitler. There's a great line in this episode where right before they actually see the final version of River Song, the one that we know, the Alex Kingston with the big curly hair, and the one that's older than her parents. This is where Rory's putting Hitler in the cupboard. They actually take Hitler, and throw him into the cupboard, meaning the broom closet nearby, and they lock him in there. So there's a whole send-off and showdown between the Doctor in River Song. It happens really quickly, though. She's been known to use hallucinogenic lipstick. She uses poison lipstick on the doctor, kisses him on the lips, and poisons him. He's only got like a couple hours, if not less than an hour, to live at this point. She, in fact, killed the doctor right away after she couldn't use the gun. Following Let's Kill Hitler, Episode 9 is Night Terrors, where we deal with childhood fear and what's in the imaginary or real monsters lurking in a cupboard or a closet or under your bed. Episode 10, The Girl Who Waited. 11 is called The God Complex. And then we're going to focus in on, this is on the great watch list of the best Matt Smith episodes, Stephen Moffat episodes, is 12 and 13. Okay, the last 2 episodes of this season. Of season 6. The first one is Closing Time, and this is where we go meet up with Craig again, played by James Corden. And this is, of course, later. Remember, back in the other episode, he found out who the doctor was. So that's already the groundwork here. But in a kind of a farewell tour, if you will, the doctor stops by to see Craig, and he arrives at his door, and this one's called Closing Time. But now Craig has a baby, all right? And the woman he's now, they're together, and they have their baby. And this episode is about Craig, the baby, and the doctor. Fantastic episode, lots of comedy, has to do with the Cybermen. And the punchline at the end is, I blew them up with love. And the doctor's like, oh, that's ridiculous. And then it's like, okay, yeah, you blew them up with love. So that's Closing Time, fantastic episode. And in that episode is where Matt Smith gets his next headgear, and that's where he gets his Stetson. He actually gets this from Craig. Of course, this goes back to the Impossible Astronaut, circling all the way back to the first of the season. Okay, Impossible Astronaut, Day of the Moon, where he's wearing his Stetson. All right, I wear a Stetson now. Stetsons are cool. By the way, you can see his little. Can you see his little? There's his screwdriver right there. Okay, so he gets a Stetson from Craig. In Closing Time, it's a great little episode. Again, I really enjoy the episodes with the Doctor and Craig. And this time, the baby is adorable little Alfie, but the Doctor supposedly talks and speaks baby language. He's like, he prefers to be called Stormageddon, Lord Ruler of them all, or something like that. And then then the Doctor says, yes, Craig, he calls you not Mom. In fact, I'm not Mom. And everyone else are peasants. So the baby obviously has this kind of, this huge ego. It's fantastic. It's so well done. And then, by the way, this one, he's in a shop, like a department store. And Craig's like, you got a job? He's like, yeah, I saw a job. And it's fantastic how the Doctor, of course, is working in a toy department at the department store because of what's going on there in the community and stuff. Well, the Doctor and Craig do save the day. Then, following that, we go right into the wedding of River Song. This is where, again, we circle all the way back to Impossible Astronaut, but in this version of things, there's this whole setup, by the way, before I get to that. This whole setup where the Doctor's touring around and visiting people, having to do with the silence. And making a comeback once again that we saw in Let's Kill Hitler is the shape-shifting robot. Okay, it can shapeshift, but also it has miniaturized people in it. Meaning there's a compression field inside where people are miniature, if you will. So the regular-sized people, but made miniature within a shape-shifting robot. That's the key element to this episode, by the way. So to the shoreline of Lake Silencio, the Impossible Astronaut, a River Song, comes out of the water. And this time, though, she discharges her weapons instead of shooting him dead. And because, she loves the Doctor, right? She loves the Doctor. And in this episode 13, The Wedding of River Song, kind of, the title says it all, by the way. After that, though, time just freezes. Okay, it's like 5:02 in the afternoon. Anyway, it's just time never moves, and all of time is happening simultaneously. So, say there's pterodactyls and the Roman government, and there's pyramids, and all these things are happening simultaneously. All of history, right? Of course, and they talk about the what's his name, who Charles Dickens, who wrote the Christmas Carol. He's getting an interview with like the hosts of the Today Show. So this whole mishmash of history working together. Winston Churchill is the Holy Roman Emperor. So it's really crazy. It's kind of this big mashup of history. Then we find out, though, that the Silents are still around. And Amy and River and Rory and a whole team have been working together. And now they're all wearing these eye patches. They're called eye drives, and what they do is they have a direct connection to the memory centers of your mind, and that way, when you do look away from one of the Silence guys, you can remember them because it stores that information for you, okay? Your memory isn't wiped, it stays. That way you can actually remember what they look like, and you can remember that you just saw them. So that's why they had that lady had the eye drive. Now they all had them, and even the doctor had to wear them. Well, they're taken to Area 52, and the pyramids in Egypt, I suppose. And in fact, this time there's an American flag on the side of one of the pyramids. And within the pyramid, they're housing a bunch of the Silents in these water tanks. This is supposed to suppress their electrical energy. Well, of course, they get out. All crap breaks loose. Amy remembers Rory. Fast forward to the end, where there is a wedding ceremony, an impromptu one. And the doctor does marry River Song at the top of this pyramid, with Rory and Amy there, of course, to give away River Song. Okay, they give their consent and give away their daughter to the doctor, which, by the way, makes them the mother-in-law and father-in-law to the doctor. Time travel, okay? It's really weird stuff. So they get married, and that's all great. But then he asks her, he's like, look into my eye. And she does. And River sees that the actual doctor is inside the pupil of the shape-shifting robot, okay? And the TARDIS is behind him, meaning he's safe inside this. And now she knows that if they do touch, time restarts, and she does kill him by the lake, by Silencio Lake, okay, in Utah. Time will start again, and things will be fixed. Well, of course, they get married, and they kiss. And that kiss starts time again. But this time, he's not killed, of course, because he's inside the shape-shifting robot. Man, spoilers! But it is a great episode. Again, Stephen Moffat writing, Matt Smith at the top of his game, the whole cast, really great stuff. So that's The Wedding of River Song, the season finale of Series 6. And then basically, technically season or episode 14 would be the Christmas special for 2011, The Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe. It's a good episode. Not one of my favorite, but it's a good episode, and kind of a take off of the whole going into a box or a cupboard and going into a fantasy world. Okay, like, C.S. Lewis, Lion, the Witch, and a Wardrobe. Is that kind of vibe to it? Except this is a... Anyway, it's a cute little episode, and it is really touching, though, wherein the actions of their adventure on this other world, they end up in the time stream, and instead of the father dying in World War II, okay, that's when this takes place, and in crash landing his plane, and I forgot which river it is, but the light that he sees that can guide him through the fog and save his life is the wife piloting this spaceship through the time vortex. Anyway, when they came out, and what's great is though there's a lot of symbolism here about following the light and love in your true north, and how you can be guided out of the storm, and his life was saved. And there's this really beautiful gathering once again, the mom, dad, and the kids on Christmas Day. Thank you for subscribing. Hit the like button, share this with your friends. As always, I am Eric, and this is the Loudboy Experience. I gotta go get my TARDIS and fly off to an adventure, guys. Until next time, have a good night.